Good morning, everyone. This is Rajpreet Kaur, and today we are going to talk about our project, which is the game. And in our group, we are four members. Rajpreet Kaur is me, Shuppreet Singh, Gurjeet Singh, and Vigneshwar. So let's start from the introduction. So the introduction is the video game design company called Parstar Games is making a game, and the name of the game is Bloodbath Revenge 4. But they are having an issue with delivering a work on time. They have been working on this project since 18 months with team of 8 designers and animations. The current problems the company is facing are they have a lack of communication with the client. They are having issues with delivering work on time. They are keeping delaying in the work. The game which designers has delivered is too violent. The client of the game is unable to understand the story of the game, and the last is game is having unlike practice. So how should we improve these issues? So we have made a project management plan, so which will help to improve these issues and will deliver the project on a time. So the first step of that plan is initiation, which will include the concept, proposal, and charter. In concept, the designer will analyze all the aspects of the project that if it is a benefit for the company or not. And in the proposal stage, if once the concept has been approved by the company, the designer will prepare a written proposal. And in charter stage, the charter is like a referred as a project initiation document. The second plan is planning. The planning will include a scope, cost, duration, and the quality, and that activities are making WBS development of schedule milestone charts. It will also help to managing identified and unidentified risk in the project. The third step is execution. Execution in this stage, the project team members will working on a lot of tasks such as the status meetings, project status reports, and the performance reports. And they are also working on other tasks like how to manage these meetings as well. So the fourth step is monitoring and controlling. The monitoring and controlling will include the scope, change control, KPI, and causes. And at this stage, the team will measure the project performance and progression in according to the project plan. The last step is completion, which will include the planned activity checklist, budget reporting, and reflection review session. And the next slide will be discussed by Shuprit. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajpreet. Hello, guys. Myself, Shuprit Singh. And as Rajpreet already explained some of the issues that the company faced while producing the game, and she provided some of the solutions too. And now I'm going to provide one of the biggest solutions, which is changing the methodology that they used. So after doing the analysis, we came to know that the company were using waterfall methodology because they didn't see the client within the whole 18 months, and they only saw the client at the end of the product, and the client wasn't even satisfied with the product, and they're gonna have to change the whole thing. So which was basically waterfall methodology, but now we decided to work for another 12 months by using agile methodologies. And I'm going to explain the agile methodology first before moving on. So agile planning is a project planning method that estimate work using self-contained work units called iterations or sprints. So this methodology is basically divided into different sprints or iterations, and each sprint has specific tasks to do within a time frame, and each sprint lasts from 1 to 2 months, and it's got specific components that we are going to talk about later. And this methodology is better than waterfall methodology because we have a lot of meetings in it, and we see the clients at the end of each sprint, which is good. If the client changes his mind, if he needs some improvements, we can always go back and work on it. So moving on, these are some of the components that agile methodologies has, and I will start with the product backlog. So product backlog is basically a list of set tasks that must be completed before the product is released. The backlog is built by the product owner, and the product owner gives a backlog of prioritized items to the Scrum Master and to the Scrum team. The backlog is based on user stories, which focus on the consider the type of end user, and it tells us what kind of features we want in the game and why the user wants these kind of features. And after having the backlog, and the next component is sprint planning. So after doing the backlog, the team discuss top priority user stories, where user stories are small unit of work or feature of the product, and decide what can be delivered in the sprint. So, for example, a user story is basically a small feature in the whole sprint. It could be like in the game, the user wants to have a sword in his hand, and this will be a user story in the sprint planning. And once we have the sprint planning, then we're gonna have sprint backlog. So after discussing about the user stories, the team finalizes the top priority or the user story that development team will be working on in the sprint. And the sprint is basically the time frame in which the work must be completed. So it depends on the length of the project or how complicated the project is. We can always change the time frame of each sprint, but they normally are from 30 to 60 days. And the daily scrum is a part of the agile methodology where there are some daily meetings every day. It could be a stand-up meeting, or it could be like a very quick 15-minute meeting where we discuss about the things that are going well, and if there is any changes to the requirement of the clients, and if we are facing any difficulties, we can always talk about in the daily scrum meetings. And then comes the outcome. The outcome is basically a hypothetical usable product, which means that it is a partial product completed, not the full product. And once we have the outcome, then we have a sprint review. In the sprint review, the whole team goes to the product owner and present the product to the product owner, and then he decides if it's meeting the requirements of the client. If it is, then we go and see the client at the end of each sprint just to check if it matches the requirements, and if clients agree that it is satisfactory, then we have a retrospective meeting. In the retrospective meeting, the whole team, the scrum master, the scrum team sit together and talk about the things that went well, and then they talk about the things that didn't go well and what can be done to improve all these things that didn't really go well. So yeah, these are all the components of the agile methodologies, and then we have some of the tools that we're going to talk about. So yeah, these are the business tools that we are going to use not to develop the game, but to use as a communication or collaboration tool. So the first tool is Basecamp. So Basecamp is basically we can call it a collaboration tool, and in the Basecamp we have features like we can chat to the team members, or we can even chat to the product owner, and we can add the client to the same chat too, so we can ask the client direct questions instead of sending the emails. And another feature of the Basecamp is we create activities. So, for example, we can allocate the tasks to each team member. For example, we're gonna allocate development team their tasks, and then we're gonna allocate different roles to different team members. And once each role is completed, the specific person can tick mark the activity, and it shows on the timeline that these works has been completed, and these works can be are due to complete, and then we can set the priorities of the work in the Basecamp too. And another good feature of the Basecamp is we can upload the documents. So, for example, you have documents relevant to the product, or there are some other external documents that are required for the project. We can always upload those kind of documents too. And the Jira is same kind of tool too. In the Jira, we can create cards, and we can allocate specific user stories in each card. And once a user story is complete, we can just mark it complete, and it will show the timeline too. And then we have some communication and collaboration tools, for example, Zoom and GitHub. So Zoom, we already know it is a communication tool, and we use it to and talk to the client or even to the team members remotely. And we can do a lot of things on the Zoom too. And then we have GitHub. On the GitHub, for example, if some developers are not available to work on the site, we can always work on the GitHub and upload the game or the project on the GitHub. So all the developers can work remotely on the same project and they can always upload and download the code that we are currently working on. So these are basic business tools that we're going to use. And now I will ask Gurjay to explain what are we going to do in the each sprint. Thank you.
I myself Gurjit Singh and I am going to discuss about the timeline and actions in each sprint. As Shuprit already discussed in detail what is a sprint, and now I am going to discuss about timeline and actions. So there are totally six sprints in our project. So first sprint is story concept and character development. The time period for this sprint is 1 month. In this sprint, we will analyze the problems in our previous game story and characters, and we will develop new characters and story according to the new requirements of the client. This sprint 2 is about creating new graphics and visuals. The length for this sprint is same, is that is 1 month, and in this sprint, we are going to build new graphics and visuals as mentioned by the client. The third sprint is about developing a basic prototype. The length for this sprint is 2 months. In this sprint, we will develop a basic prototype so that we can show to our client so that if he need any other changes, we can make it too. The fourth sprint is producing the final version of the game. This will take 3 months, which is a longer time. So this will be the final product of our team. In the sprint 5, that is testing and modifying, it takes 2 months. In this sprint, we will do different type of testing such as functional and non-functional testing. Functional testing includes sanity testing, system testing, and integration testing, whereas non-functional testing includes readability and usability. And the last sprint is delivering the gold master. This will take 2 months. In the In this sprint, we will deliver the final product to client and will ask client to do more testing from the customers, and if any change is required, we'll make it too. So totally we will complete all this project in 11 months, and we have one more month so that while launching, if there is any problem, we can fix it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Gurjit and other friends. They have discussed before about a lot of important topics related how we can solve the problem. We have understood the current problem with the company and our ideas to overcome it. Added, there are few possible final risks to our solution. Firstly, post-production support. We speak about how we can bring in Agile to solve the problem and our 12-month plan to execution. According to this risk and this stage, we might have designed and developed a solution within time, and if there is any unencountered scenario that heats up after the product is designed, then the client may need developer team to check with that. So we may need to recommend client to have dedicated support team to monitor and act upon every problems that may arise even after 12 plan. Secondly, team and project recovery plan according to the situation. If there is natural disaster or any other natural inability that caused for short period or long period, we may need an agreement that speaks how we may handle that. In addition, within teams, if there is unexpected withdrawal or highly resourced person are for security to source the data and release to project, there must be a project recovery plan that makes client and team run smoothly, that helps project run smoothly. Finally, to the conclusion, we have understood the problem and summarized what was the mistake. We also able to demonstrate how we can recover from that agile methodologies and illustrated with different sprints. We also mentioned different business tools that helps us achieve this, and in overall We also discussed about the risk that we may encounter. Thanks for listening to us.